Pinkerton Audiobooks presents The Devil's Pen, written and read by Pinkerton. The book was over 1,000 years old. It was a book of ancient magical rituals and spells that had been kept secret by the ancient wizards and had somehow survived being burned during the Middle Ages. It was one of the most valued objects of the ancient Chinese emperors, and after the fall of Peking during the Boxer War back in the 19th century, an American soldier had gotten it and brought it back to the States with him after his tour. He had no idea what it was, but he kept it just the same. The book passed from descendant to descendant until it ended up with his great-great-great-grandson Matt Thompson, who had studied it, and who also dabbled with magical formulae and demonic spells in secret. During his experiments, he had found that some of the hints in the old grimoire seemed to work just a little bit, and he was filled with excitement when he had first cracked open the pages of this Chinese magic book. Matt had taught himself to read Cantonese, and had finally found a relatively easy ritual in the old book. The ritual outlined exactly what to do to summon a demon, and how to make a deal with him to get what you want. Matt's life had always seemed to be clouded with negativity, as if he'd been cursed. Nothing ever worked out for him, and the more he tried to succeed, the more it seemed that the universe would set him up for failure. It was for this reason that he had begun his studies into witchcraft and the occult. There had to be a way to get out from under the shadow of that black storm cloud that seemed to follow him and thwart his every effort. Matt followed the spell carefully. On the floor in the center of the room, he placed a candle that he had made from corpse fat and a bowl of bat's blood mixed with alum. With trembling fingers, he lit the candle and incense. He picked up a stick of blue chalk and dipped it into the bowl. Around the candle, he drew a square inside an 8-pointed star, then sat cross-legged in the center of the symbol. He took another look at the pages of the old book and sat it next to him. He couldn't get Lucille out of his head. Her good looks, her green eyes as deep as quicksilver, her velvety voice. He had to have her, yet she was not interested in him in the least. "The time is almost at hand," he leered as his eyes returned to the tattered old book. "If the square be large and the circle be large, let ye candle burn to its end, for hereafter you need it not." He recited the summoning and completed the ritual. As the thick greasy smoke swirled like lost spirits a few feet off the floor, he recited the incantation that would open the portal for the demon to enter our dimension. Matt finished reading the magic and called forth for the demon to appear. There was a sharp bang like that of a firecracker, and the smoke grew thicker and darker. The black cloud gathered together into a pillar as it gradually rose to form the shape of a column. It continued to morph until it resembled a semi-human figure, then it solidified in front of him. When first he saw it, he thought he had been struck mad. The figure was black and monstrous, with twin shafts of reddish light spewing forth from its ghastly sunken eyes. His first instinct had been to run as far away and as fast as possible, but he could not move. In the moment of paralysis which followed his total horror, Matt noticed that the thing's skin was scaled, like a marine creature, and from its forehead spiked a pair of curved horns. Around its legs whipped a pointed tail as it stepped closer. Matt swallowed hard in his fearful stupor and stared dumbfounded at the lurking figure. Every nerve in his body stimulated by a horror so great that his ears roared and his body trembled under the onslaught of the fear. "I have come," it said in a voice that boomed like the tolling of a death bell. "Write it, and it shall be, my child." The demon smiled as he offered Matt a fountain pen covered with Kabbalistic writing. "Write it, and it shall be yours. The only cost is your soul." Matt did not care for his soul, only for her, only that she was with him. His soul was worth the cost even if he only got a little time. At least in those moments, she would be all his, and everything would be perfect, for once in his life of bad luck. His eyes lit up with triumph as he flung his arms high over his head. He eagerly leapt to his feet, snatched the pen from the demon's clawed hand, and rushed to the desk to begin writing. Excitement flowed through his body like a charge of electricity. With a nod, the demon vanished in a puff of inky black smoke which dissipated through the air and filled the room with the smell of sulfur and brimstone. Matt was amazed when Lucille came rushing through the doorway toward him. Her arms were outstretched, and her long white dress flowed behind her like the smoke from a cigarette. "Lucille!" Matt exclaimed as he ran toward her. The next thing he knew, she was in his arms with her body pressed against him and her lips on his. In an instant, he was alone in the room again. The walls creaked as the floor began to shake, jarring his occult books from their shelves behind the desk. The entire earth seemed to melt away as it fell out from under him in a whirlpool that sucked him down fast, down into the cold blackness that had overshadowed him his entire life. The end. This has been a J. Pinkerton Audiobooks presentation. The Devil's Pen. Written and read by J. Pinkerton.
Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel and click the bell to be notified when we post new videos.